Hello and welcome to week 5, day 5 of my MyoMax training program. This is a lifting series built to create me or make me into the best lifter and athlete possible, but to also like provide insights and help you guys along your lifting journey as well. So I kind of think of it as a two-way street where we're both becoming bigger and growing stronger together. This is a lower body day. Oh, and by the way, you guys can get the program down below for $10 in the description, but honestly, everything is free because I record everything that I do here on YouTube, and if I don't get to something that I record, then I tell you guys about it. Today is a true lower body day, and I'm making the crazy decision to go off script. I'm gonna go off script and just listen to my body because honestly, I feel like my recovery could be better, and the program is getting pretty intense for me, and I haven't missed a day yet. I've been going 6 days every single week with high intensity, really pushing myself. And if you guys have been following along, you'll see that I've been continually pushing the weights up more and more. Well, in my personal belief, whenever your strength starts to plateau, then that is probably a sign of inadequate recovery. So far, all the upper body days have been doing fantastically well. I've been able to become stronger each and every day, but last week on this particular lower body day, and even last lower body day of this week, the strength levels haven't really been increasing. I've been kind of stagnant, and that's kind of telling me that my recovery isn't really there. So today I'm kind of flipping the script a little bit. I'm just going to kind of ease into it and see how my body responds. So I'm going to start with doing the leg press. I'm actually going up 10 pounds just to try and push myself. And then we'll just see from there. I'm just gonna kind of go exercise by exercise in whatever order feels best. And I think that is really something that you guys should try at some point, is try listening to your body and be more intuitive. Once you amass enough knowledge to know like what exercises work best for you, what training split you like, what exercise order. Once you understand all the fundamentals and you know how to periodize and track yourself and use good form and all the basics, then I encourage you guys to go off script for a little bit and just try and listen to your body and see what it tells you, because I think that is the best feedback. I think listening to your body is better than apps, it's better than programs, it's better than everything, as long as you're not using it as a permit in order to be wimp. And I mean that in the nicest way possible, because there's been times in my lifting journey where I've gone off script and then I just end up either missing days or half-assing workouts. And it's almost like it gives me a license in order to kind of be a wimp and kind of a pussy in the gym. And that's not what it's about. If you're using it in that regard, then you're probably the type of person that needs a program, which is okay. A lot of people do. However, if you can listen to your body and go off script and kick ass in the gym, I think that is the best of both worlds, and that'll end up achieving you the most gains in the long run. So I'm starting with a leg press, and we're just gonna see where it goes from there, okay? In fact, I'm actually considering ending this program early just because I'm getting kind of sick of doing the same workouts week in, week out. While it's like a great thing to have that periodized, training where everything is carefully placed and stuff like that, I think that once you get to a certain level, and especially where I'm at, where I'm recording and stuff, I want to break up the monotony, keep it fun. If I'm doing the same exercises every day, I eventually will run out of things to say about them, and that's the last thing that I want. So I honestly think that tomorrow may be the last day of MyoMax that I follow. Of course, the program is 9 weeks, so if you guys want to keep following the program, you could totally get it and in the description and fill out all 9 weeks if you want, but that's not a requirement. I never want to force people to do something that they don't want to. Ooh. All right, I think that was a pretty good introductory set to the workout. Another thing that I was going to quickly mention is that I'd rather have myself, and anyone for that matter, if they really don't feel like going to the gym and their body is really beat up and they're thinking about just skipping altogether, I have them kind of, and myself, kind of evaluate, is it worth it to skip it? Or is it worth it to go and do lesser volume? I'm not talking about lesser intensity, but lesser volume. And there are some days where skipping it is a really good idea, but I think most of the time it's probably better to go and just decrease the amount of volume that you're doing. So maybe like half the sets or something like that. Just so that you get that frequency, so that you get that like muscle activation response. In other words, if you're decreasing your frequency too much because you're deciding to skip days, then that's going to do a lot more harm than simply going and getting a few sets in and calling that the workout. Because it's very important that you are triggering that protein synthesis and that repair response as frequently as your recovery allows. That's really like the most important, one of the most important things for maximizing hypertrophy is you want to signal that growth response as often as you can when you're fully recovered. Of course, you don't want to be signaling it if you're only like half recovered. That's going to lead to overtraining and a whole host of downsides. But if you can trigger it right after you fully recovered, like, you know, ideally like right after, then that's going to be the best of both worlds, you know? Ooh. That's what I'm talking about. It's a little bit higher of an intensity of training, which is really what I'm looking for, especially if I'm gonna be going off script like that. So this whole topic kind of brings me to the idea of what is like the best possible training split that anybody can do. I think it really runs into two little variables here. First of all, what can you stick with? That's ultimately like the most important aspect. Is you got to be consistent with your training. You have to consistently be going hard as you can recover from. And you know, if you're trying to follow like a 6-day-a-week split, but you can only commit to 4 days, that's not going to be good enough. It's just not. And then second of all, beyond just whatever you can stick to, I think that a training split where you are kind of intuitive with your body is very important too. So, you know, does it give you license to be able to modify the split at any given time? So for instance, you could do like a like variable upper or push-pull legs type of split. So you could do like push-pull legs, rest. But then for whatever reason, if you like need a day off because your legs are destroyed or like your biceps are way too sore and you know, you can't like lift the same amount of weight on the bench press or whatever it may be, then having the option to either take a day off in the middle of there and then continue as if nothing happened right after, or to be able to decrease the volume and substitute it somehow, I think is, you know, probably the best outcome. So, and then obviously like in terms of a training split, you want at least a 2 times a week frequency per body part. And then you also want adequate exercise selection and adequate volume throughout the week. So you probably want around 15 to 18-ish sets per body part on a consistent basis. You can go below or over depending, but that's probably like a good middle ground. And then you want to hit that for each body part on a weekly basis. And then you also want to be splitting that volume into at least 2 sessions per body part. So like chest on Monday, 8 sets, chest on Thursday, 8 sets, that's a total of 16. And then obviously you don't want, I'm saying like it's super obvious, it's not obvious to everybody, I'm sorry. But sometimes like you're not gonna want body parts to clash either. So you're ideally not gonna be wanting to do like chest 2 days in a row, or especially not legs 2 days in a row. You really want to give those suckers some time to recover. So that's why I like my training program currently so much, is because I'm hitting upper body, lower body, and then I'm doing like some accessories, some like arms and shoulders for some added training volume. Of course, like the training volume is really high, especially for arms and shoulders, and I'm actually feeling kind of under recovered in them about now. So that's another reason why I'm thinking about going off script for a while. Who knows, maybe I'll return to doing Myomax. I don't know, probably in the future I may return to it and just pick up where I left off. But for now, I'm thinking about scrapping. I think that 5 weeks is a perfect amount to be like, I achieved what I wanted to. It's time to have a little bit of fun, time to mix it up a little bit. 5 weeks that's 30 days of solid training, Yeah. When I say that I'm going to be going off script, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to be recording my sets and reps. I still stand by everything that I've said since I started this channel, that recording and having something to refer to, some sort of documentation from the past, is the best way to track progress. Our memories are very flawed. Even if you think you remember something correctly, it may not be correctly, because over time our memories do change and they're not super reliable either. That's why having some sort of documentation where you wrote it down is of the utmost importance. For instance, I'm somebody that journals most days, and like I won't even remember what I wrote in my journal from 2 days ago. Like it's completely out of my mind. I only remember once I start reading it, then it all comes flooding back. So I think that it's very important to have some sort of documentation, whether it be a notepad and a pen, Google Sheets or Google Docs on your phone, or an equivalent of that. There's many other apps. You can just use your phone notes or whatever it may be. What else is there? I don't know. You could write it on your arm, I guess. I don't know. But just whatever you have to do to write it down. So when I say that I'm gonna be going off script and not following a program after this week, I don't mean that I'm just gonna completely make it up as I go along. Of course, I'm gonna have some sort of structure. It's just gonna be a much more like intuitive and listen to my body and kind of fill in the blank type of structure. For instance, this is exactly what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that, say I do like a chest day, I'm gonna program in a pressing movement, and then a fly movement in a machine, some sort of machine press, so that I'm hitting the chest from all the different angles that I deem to be important. And then from there, from week to week, I could write into that slot. I could be like, it says like, say it says incline press. I could write in incline dumbbell press, or incline barbell press, incline Smith machine press, whatever I want to do. or say it just says like chest movement, then I could just write in like chest dips, and then from there I could write, you know, how many sets I'm trying to do, which would be like between 2 and 4, and then depending on how I'm feeling that day, I may do 2 on the bottom end, but I may do 4 on the upper end, and then I write in the sets and reps, and of course there's going to be kind of like an ideal rep range, and then I write in my weight as well, the weight that I'm doing. So it's kind of more like a template, a structure, if you will, where you can improvise yourself and listen to your body and have your body give you feedback. And I think that for me, that's going to be the best way to go, because not only will I be able to really fine tune my goals as I go, but additionally, it's going to create a much more fun experience for me and you. And what I mean by that is that, you know, I'm not going to be doing the same movement every single week. You know, week 1, day 1, week 2, day 1, week 3, day 1, week 4, day 1, week 5, day 1. They're not all going to start with either the incline Smith machine bench press or the Smith machine bent over row. They're not all going to start like that. So I think that that is very, very important, just to break up the monotony and especially break up what I can bring to the table. Another real benefit of having a more intuitive training program is that you won't be looking at the totality of what you have to do for a given day in such a structured form. For instance, when I'm looking at like this day of Myomax, I get really daunted and kind of like discouraged about going to the gym, because I know that I got to surpass these very intense numbers with good form, and I have to surpass them for like a certain amount of sets in a certain amount of rep range, which gets really overwhelming sometimes. And so having the ability to kind of intuitively structure your training program, you know, barring that you're not being a wimp and phoning it in every time, I think will allow you to have not only more intensity in each of your lifts, because you kind of get to set the pace yourself intuitively, but also more enthusiasm and optimism about your workouts too, because, you know, just by like going off script today, it's making me want to try harder, and I'm getting more curious, and that's such a beautiful thing. Like, I haven't done this hack squat machine in probably a year, you know, not since I used to work at a gym did I use a hack squat machine. And I just did a warm-up set, and I freaking love it. It felt so good to me. So you have that like optimism and that enthusiasm and that sense of wonder that you probably haven't had since you first started lifting before you did any training programs, because everything was so new and fresh. And I think that lifting should be something that we enjoy. It shouldn't be a chore. It should never, ever be a chore. Whenever it becomes a chore, which Myomax is starting to be for me, I recommend changing something up, because this is supposed to be a fun process. And if you're not enjoying the process and it's not fun for you, do you think you're really going to stick to it long term? Do you think that you're going to achieve all the gains that you want? I think that in order to really get the physique that you want and the health outcomes that you want and everything, at least make it a much easier process, you should be enjoying the process that you're undergoing. If you're not enjoying it, you know, you may achieve the physique, you may not, but at what cost? Let's get into the first working set of this. I'm probably gonna, you know, even though I'm going off script, I'm gonna stick to the same volumes, the same relative volumes. So I'm gonna try and hit around, what is this week? It's supposed to be 16 sets. 18 sets. It's supposed to be 18 sets. So that means we need to hit 9 sets. No, that's not true. What? 14, 15, 16, 17. No, it's 18. Yeah, so we have to hit 9 sets. This should get me to 6. I think that's right. Anyway, let's just do it. It doesn't have to be perfect, but as long as I'm getting the same stimulus. Holy shit, that felt so incredible. Oh my God. These are gonna have to stick around for a little while. That felt so good. I'm actually gonna go up and wait. I'm so disappointed in myself that I haven't been using this since the beginning. Usually hack squat machines to me don't feel that great, but I guess that there's so much variance in different hack squat machines because when I was going to college, I lived in a college town and the gym there was fucking awesome. It's honestly like the best gym that I've ever been to, but that hack squat machine was so rickety and old and felt so difficult. And most notably, it really hurt my knees. It felt super uncomfortable on my knees. I think it was just like the line of force that you would go through in accordance to how the pad was being inflicted. So like, I think my knees would go way over my toes, which is fine if your knees go over your toes, but for whatever reason, this one caused some pain. And even though I got decently strong in it and I really hammered it, it never ever felt natural. And I think that that's something that is really so important. If you find an exercise and it just clicks, it just feels natural and it feels really good for your muscles, not your joints. You don't want it to feel, I mean, not good for your, as long as it feels good for your muscles and good for your joints, then that's really, you probably have a winner there, okay? And just because you do like one hack squat machine or one Smith machine or one plate loaded machine doesn't mean that they're all equal. It's just like maybe you go through a bad breakup, but then you hate like you never want to date a woman of like a certain nature again or something like that. That's such a stupid example, but that's the first thing that came to my mind, you know, because I've had friends where they go through a breakup and they're like, oh, women are the same, blah, blah. Not the case. It's not the case at all. Women are like machines, is what I'm trying. Kidding. Sorry, that was terrible. What I'm trying to say is that just because you have one bad experience with something doesn't mean that everything in that category is completely to shambles. And it really holds true with exercise equipment. So even if like you try one cable machine, that's a big one that I've run into. Like one cable machine feels way different than another one may, just because of like, it depends on how oiled up the machine is, how loose it is, the weight calibration on it, all these different factors. All right, I'm going up, what is this, 20 pounds? So we're going up a little bit, not a huge margin, but I think it'll be worth it because while the last set felt phenomenal, I feel like it could be heavier. All right, Set number 2 down. We'll do one more. I just spoke a lot about how this machine feels way better than any other hack squat machine. But I forgot to bring in the confounding variable, the outside variable of I started with leg press. So my legs were extremely warmed up. My quads are already pumped. And while I don't really think that is making a huge difference, it's definitely making some sort of difference. Because if you were to go into hack squats cold, even if you did like a dynamic warm up or something, it's not going to truly prepare you for your first working set. Unless you do a ton of warm up sets, which is something that I, as a lifter, am trying to improve at, is my warm up sets. I tend to rush through them a little bit. I get so antsy. I really want to talk to you guys, No, it's just, I like to get the show on the road, and I think that a lot of people would agree. I think a lot of people tend to rush their warm-up sets, so that's something that I'm trying to improve upon. But what I'm trying to say is that I was more warmed up than I normally would have been when doing hack squats, and I think that probably contributed to why it felt so good. I don't think that was the only reason, but I think it's definitely a reason. So I'm thinking, here's kind of my game plan here. I'm thinking 1 more sets of these hack squats, and then thinking today I'm gonna do some dumbbell RDLs, and then I kind of want to do hip thrusts, but I'm not sure if I want to do those. I know I want to do dumbbell RDLs. I'll do some dumbbell RDLs, and then I'll do some let's do some good mornings. I haven't done good mornings in a long time. Jeez, it's so fun to go off script and kind of mix things up. I already talked about so much, but I just want to bring one more thing, is that, having a program, it can really bring a new sense of discipline and intensity and just like heighten your workouts of any week to like another level that you're not used to, because it's forcing you to push yourself beyond your limits. But in my opinion, like if you do that for too long, then you're gonna end up, it's like the Icarus story where the guy like flew way too close to the sun type of deal. Of course, in like a well-structured program, you shouldn't be having those issues. And I could definitely complete this program, but it would be very, very challenging. And just for my case, my use case of I'm making these videos and stuff, I want to have that kind of variety. So I'm really excited. That's one of these suckers. Man, damn, I feel like I could have gone a little bit more intensive. That's something I really got to make sure that I'm doing when I go off script, is just because I don't have like something written out for the day doesn't mean that I can't like strive for my absolute best and try and beat myself last time. Okay, so I actually haven't done the dumbbell Romanian deadlift since hypertrophy 1.0. For your long-term watchers, that was my program before Myomax. So I ended it like 2 months ago or something like that. And it was just a 4-week, 6 to 8 week push-pull legs program. Definitely got me going with this whole like create a program YouTube deal. It got me really like into it, because I fell in love with it ever since that point, because it improved my consistency and improved my motivation, and it really got me loving the gym again. But anyway, kind of a blast from the past here. But I've never like given up on this exercise. It's always been a great one for me. I love how each hand is like unilateral in some regard, because you're doing a dumbbell variation. It's much more free weight than something like a Smith machine. Okay. Oh, shit. Fuck. No one can prepare you for RDLs of any sort, especially after squats and leg presses, guys. Nobody. Honestly, I feel like most of the time leg days are just something that I endure through, not something that I look forward to. Sometimes leg days I look forward to it just because it's fun to push extremely heavy loads, to just lift 450, 500 pounds or whatever. Sometimes it's fun to really exert yourself beyond your limits and push yourself further than you've ever pushed yourself. Because really, if you're just doing an arm day, you can push yourself far, but you're still doing arms. Versus if you're pushing yourself hard on a leg day, you can push yourself even a fraction of how hard you push yourself with arms. Can be way harder. And the limit for how hard you can go and get something out of it is way higher. The ceiling's way higher with legs, if you understand what I'm saying. If I'm making sense. So sometimes it is fun to really push the barriers and your limits, but most of the time it's that anticipation of, fuck, I gotta lift 400 or 500 pounds that gets to you, especially after you have 4 training sessions under your belt that week. Today I'm having a great time though, don't get me wrong, just because it's fun to mix things up. That can be a great thing. And of course, guys, I've said this so many times, but you don't want to be changing things up too often, because you want your body to adapt. You want that specificity component in your training. So if you're changing, and this is actually a mistake that I made when I was under a year into training. I was so into writing my own training programs and getting super creative with it, because lifting can be a really creative endeavor if you look at it that way. And I was just obsessed with making the most original piece of art for a program. And therefore, I made it so that every single day, even though they had similarities, the exercises changed every single day. So out of this 12-week program, the exercise was never the same twice. And what I mean by that is the closest that it would get to being the same was, you do a standing dumbbell push press on one day, but then once the cycle goes back to a movement pattern like that, you'd be doing a unilateral version of a push press. So then you do seated bilateral, then seated unilateral. And while the idea has a lot of genuine interest and You know, it seems like really great on paper. Oh, make every single workout unique and interesting. It'll never get stale. It'll always be fun. You're always shocking your body. That's not the best approach, because first of all, a standing unilateral dumbbell press fucking sucks for hypertrophy. That's a terrible exercise for hypertrophy. And I'll break it down right now really quick. You're standing, so you're not just focusing on your deltoid and your upper chest and your triceps. You're all of a sudden including your legs, you're including your core, you're including your rectors, you're including all this stuff to keep you upright from tipping over. So it's making it way more athletic, which is great if you're trying to train for a sport, but if you're training for hypertrophy, like I was trying to get out of it, that's terrible. On top of that, doing unilateral also involves your core musculatures, because now you're having to push against tipping over. So it's adding a whole nother layer of imbalance and instability. And I've talked about this a million times. You need to be stable in order to have the most force output. And with hypertrophy, you want the most force output to do the most muscle damage and thus get the greatest growth response. So doing bilateral is far superior, but I would take it a step further and do seated bilateral. That would be my choice, because then you remove all those added muscle groups that you don't want in the movement. So that's why I don't think that that's a smart move. And then on top of that, you don't want to be mixing up your exercises all the time, because you need your body to adapt. Your body is, after all, an organism that adapts whatever it latches onto. If you throw an exercise at it once and never again, it's not going to adapt. It's just going to be a new training stimulus, which is okay, but if you really want the most gains possible, your CNS and your muscular system have to adapt to the exercise so that it can get stronger at it and more efficient at it, so that your training can become more intense and all that stuff. Anyway, let's see what's at here. Okay, so as I mentioned, my original plan was to do good mornings next, ideally the Smith machine variation, but the Smith machines are all taken. So I'm just gonna hop over to the hamstring curl and leg extension. Maybe not in that order, we'll see whatever's available. And then I can, I'll either circle back or just call it. I feel like definitely my quads have gotten enough stimulus and then some. My hamstrings could use a little bit more, so if the Smith machines are still taken, I'm just gonna double up on the seated hamstring volume, or maybe do the prone. But that's really like, if you guys are trying to like go intuitively based off of how your body feels, I think number one, like the most important single thing that you should be doing is making sure that you're hitting enough sets for each body part for the week. So for instance, I mean, most of the stuff that I'm doing is kind of in line with Myomax in terms of, you know, I did 3 sets on the leg press. I did 3 sets of a squat variation. I did 3 sets of an RDL variation. And then all that's left is like 3 sets of a hip thrust variation, which I'm going to be doing the good morning, which is a hip hinge. So you're actually getting that thrusting component. It's not quite the same as a hip thrust, but it's very close. And in fact, maybe I'll just end up doing a unilateral hip thrust like I have programmed. And then, you know, I'm going to be doing the same thing for the isolation movement. So the leg press or the quad extension and the hamstring curl. But the most important thing is that you're getting enough volume per week per body part. So how I like to separate it is look at how much weekly you're going to do. If you're going to do 18 sets like I'm doing this week, you want to get 9 sets for the body parts on each day. So, you know, I just hit 6 sets of quads. I got 3 from the leg press, 3 from the hack squat, and then I'm gonna do 3 for the leg extension to finish it off. Same goes with the hamstrings and glutes. You know, I'm getting 3 from what I just did, the RDL, dumbbell RDL, then I'll get 3 from the good morning, or 3 from like the hip thrust, and then 3 from the leg curl. So that's how I'm organizing it. Let's get over to the leg extension. Okay, so via process of elimination, the hamstring curls are being used. So I'm gonna be starting with the leg extension. It's freaking heavy. Honestly, after all that like intense quad volume, it may be a good idea to tune down the weight a little bit and more focus on like squeezing and slowing down my reps. I think that's what I'm gonna do for the following 2 sets, to be honest. But I mean, I think that was a pretty effective first set. I'm just gonna raise it up slightly. We're not gonna be going super heavy today. Sometimes you gotta adjust for that, you know? And actually, I think going forward, I'm gonna start implementing more deliberate squeezes and holds and like intensity strategies like that. You know, that a lot of huge dudes tend to implement. So for instance, like people love to squeeze at the fully contracted portion and then pause at the stretch portion to make sure that they're enacting as much motor recruitment and getting that as much of a pump as they possibly can. So I think I'm going to try implementing that with this next set. I'm actually going to go kind of light, and then we're just going to try and squeeze and see maybe if implementing that to the smaller exercises actually has an effect on the training stimulus. Because what is training? Training is just a stimulus. It's like the seed that eventually becomes the flower, and the flower is growth, and the seed is the training stimulus. So as I was saying, whatever you can do to get that seed to flower and blossom is going to be your best friend. And sometimes that takes a little bit of self-experimentation. See how much more deliberate I am? I could probably slow down. Eccentrics. So immediately felt that a lot more. Yes, it wasn't as heavy, and I could feel how much lighter it was, but sometimes weight isn't the only thing that matters. Okay, let's just cut to the third set. Last drop set. Ooh. Ooh. All right, guys, due to the busy nature of the gym right now, I'm going to end it a little bit early. I'm just going to finish off with a couple. I already did 1 set, so I'm going to do 2 more of this. And then I'll probably do some sort of hip thrust and then some calf work just to finish it all off. So anyway, this is going to conclude week 5, day 5 of my MyoMax training program. Catch you guys tomorrow for week 5, day 6, and that's actually going to do it for the program. I know that it's supposed to be 9 weeks, but I want to mix it up. So I'm going to end it here. I'm going to end it tomorrow and then kind of do my own thing for a bit, and we'll see what's up. Have a good one. Bye.